What's going on, guys? So in this video, we will be going over how to build and deploy AI chatbots. Specifically, we will be going over 1, how AI chatbots work, 2, how you can train an AI chatbot on whatever data you want, and 3, most importantly, how you can build and deploy these chatbots yourself. That way you can share them with whoever you want. So this is a chatbot that I deployed right here. It's trained off some company documents. So we asked, explain to me how the first 5 days of onboarding work, and then based on the provided context from the customer onboarding doc, it answers the actual question, and it actually references the actual source as well. So in the description of this video, I actually provided all the code to build this chatbot yourself. So I would highly recommend checking that out, okay? First thing, let's go over how AI chatbots actually work on the back end, okay? So what's going on behind the scenes, all right? Before we get into anything AI related and actually generating answers like what we did right here, let's talk about actually training the AI chatbot and giving it the actual data it needs to actually answer questions correctly, okay? So how data ingestions works is that you're gonna want to get all the documents that you want this AI to be trained off of, okay? So this could be like internal company documentation, FAQs, SOPs, or this could be PDF files of multiple books, whatever you guys want, whatever text documents you guys want to train this chatbot off of, that's what you want to put in here, okay? And when you guys clone this repo for this GitHub repo I built for this chatbot, what you want to do is put all the documents that you want into this docs folder, okay? So right now I put some example docs just for this demo, right? But what you want to do is delete everything in here, delete all this, and put in whatever text files you want inside of this. So this is going to be internal documentation, SOPs, FAQs, books, literally whatever, like YouTube transcripts. It doesn't really matter. Just throw it in here, throw in this docs folder, and that's step 1, okay? In terms of, again, how this works is after we gather all the docs, so let's say we put all your text documents inside the docs folder, what we do then is that we're going to throw them, we're going to chunk up these files and put them into embedding models. So what do I mean by chunk up these files? So let's for example, let's say we threw a textbook in, right? And we want to train on a textbook. A textbook can be fucking gigantic, right? Like we're not gonna dump an entire textbook's like text inside a singular prompt. We're gonna need to split it up, right? We're gonna need to break it up into say like 1,000-word chunks, let's say. So that's what chunking is. All we're doing is slicing up all of our text by, let's say, 1,000 words. Even if we're having using like FAQs and SOPs, we want to slice them up into 1,000-word chunks so that we're not just info dump. So we're not info dumping a single prompt with all this info, okay? So that's the first thing. We're just gonna slice up these documents into chunks, okay? And from there on, we're gonna throw them each of these chunks. So again, each of these, let's say, just for example, let's say 1,000 words, right? We're gonna throw them into embedding model. So what are embeddings? So embeddings are how an AI understands meaning, okay? So like I like food, I love to eat. That means the same shit, right? And they're represented by these types of numbers. These are just a fake set of numbers. But like in the real world, by the way, these embeddings or like these lists of numbers are like thousands of numbers long. But I like food, I love to eat, they mean the same things. And if you notice, these numbers are actually very similar. And that's intentional. These embedding models, they purposely represent these texts to capture meaning. So if a set of texts mean the same, then their numbers will be very similar to another. And if they're not the same whatsoever, then they'll be very different, obviously, right? So the reason why this is important is that, again, all those chunks of text we created. So imagine we just threw in a bunch of books. We broke them up into into a bunch of chunks of text because we can't throw in the entire book into a single prompt. We break it all up, right? And now this allows us, if we embed them and turn them into these lists of numbers, let's say we have Alex Hormozi's books inside there, right? We ask like, what's a good way to construct an offer? Let's say we embed, what's a good way to construct an offer? That converts it into a list of text, right? Let's just say it hypothetically exists. We can use this list of numbers, these embeddings, right, to find other similar lists of numbers in our database that have similar text about constructing offers. And what you'll find is that we'll be able to retrieve all the similar chunks of text that talk about offers as a result. So that's what allows us to give, like I say, a prompt in the future, relevant context to answer the specific question. We'll get more into this in a bit. The whole thing that you need to understand is that embeddings are a way to represent text through a list of numbers and they capture its meaning, okay? But yeah, going back to this diagram. So again, we have all our chunks of text, right? We embed them, again, turning them into those listed numbers, and we're going to store them into a vector database. So what is a vector database? So again, these listed numbers for each of these chunks of text, they're thousands of numbers long. You can't just throw them in a fucking Google Sheet. So I use Pinecone right over here to actually store these chunks of text, and you'll actually need to make an account on here to actually use the GitHub repo that I have down below, by the way. So yeah, I would highly recommend making an account on here, but you can what this allows you to do is upload our embeddings up to here and be able to retrieve similar chunks of text with this database, okay? It makes everything like super easy, okay? But nonetheless, from there on, once we have all of our data ingested inside Pinecone, or any vector database really, what happens from there is, again, kind of like what I talked about earlier. If a user question comes in about, let's say, like, how does onboarding work? Or what did I put before? Let's say, explain to me how the first 5 days of onboarding work, right? We'll embed that. So how do the first 5 days of onboarding work? We'll turn that into a list of numbers, retrieve context from the vector database. So what's happening here is we're retrieving similar chunks of text that represent the same meaning about what's the first 5 days of onboarding look like. And you know what and what's crazy is they'll find chunks of text that relate to how the first week of onboarding will look like. And what to do from there is put that context inside the prompt, and then we generate the answer. All right. So you guys, it's pretty straightforward how it's pretty straightforward once you guys understand embeddings, like how chatbots actually work on the back end. And again, I wrote out all the code to do all this over here. So like to do this entire process, so to do this entire data ingestion process, all right, it is going to be the this ingest.py file. And I say it right here too, to set up Pinecone. So what this Python setup pinecone.py file, so what this setup Pinecone file is going to do is all it's going to do is just create the actual database inside of Pinecone. Okay, and I've already ran it, so I'm not going to run it in this video. But you literally just follow this step by step. Set your environment variables, run this file, set up pinecone.py, and it's literally just going to generate. So here's the code for this here. So it's literally going to create the actual database within Pinecone for you to start pushing embeddings up to, okay? And from there on, this ingestion file, so ingest.py, all that's doing is going to chunk up the list, or chunk up all the text inside the docs folder, okay? And let me pull that up. It's going to chunk up all the text inside the docs folder, turn them into those list of numbers, so those embeddings, and push them up to Pinecone. That's literally all it does, okay? So I'm not going to run it, but you would literally just, if you're on, say, cursor or whatever, Python ingest.py, run that shit, and it'll push everything up into Pinecone. And then what you'll find is when you go onto Pinecone, and you go to your actual vector database, then you'll find all your embeddings right here. Let me just show too in this video, just for the sake of this video, like what these embeddings actually look like too. So this is just a chunk of text from one of the documents, okay? So let me pull this. So this is the chunk of text I pulled right here. So again, we're only pulling pieces at a time because we don't want to throw in the entire document all at once. But let me copy and paste this just so you guys can see, because it's fucking huge. Like, look at all that. All these numbers right here, right guys, represent just this small piece of text, being able to capture this entire meaning of this text, okay? But yeah, guys, once everything's up into Pinecone, this entire step is complete, the data ingestion process. All we have to really do now is just deploy this up via Vercel. So I actually mainly use AWS for my deployment, but I think for like beginners, especially because I think most of my audience aren't really like engineers, Vercel is actually a very, very good tool for deploying any AI application. And to deploy it to Vercel, this GitHub repo, I give the instructions right here. So there's two ways. What I like about Vercel is that it connects already through GitHub. So any changes I make to this GitHub repo, since it's connected on Vercel, it'll automatically be pushed to Vercel as well. Or you can do a direct deployment just using Vercel deploy. This is more like AWS style. But let me just go through like what the process on Vercel, how that looks like, okay? So first thing you need to do is make a project, okay? So this is the Vercel dashboard once you make an account. You make a project, so just make project. All you have to do from here is just click the actual GitHub repo that you want to be deployed. Just pick the one that we obviously like are working with, and then all you have to do is set the environment variables. All right, so the environment variables that you will need for this will be the OpenAI API key and your Pinecone API key. Because I use GPT-4o for this, by the way, but you need both of these so that obviously it can call like GPT to like for the prompt, right? And for Pinecone, it needs the API key to actually like push everything into Pinecone, right? Once you define the environment variables and then you link it with the GitHub repo, all you have to hit is deploy, and it'll push it right up. And you'll have a pretty chatbot that you can run like just like this, right? And the cool thing too is I actually made it password protected, just because I know, especially with internal company documents, like this is just obviously a demo, but like obviously if you're doing a company chatbot, you don't want like people having access to, say, your company's internal docs. So I also set where you can make it. I also set it where you can make a password as well. So let me just refresh this. And look at that, it says access required for this video. I just set it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And in the actual front end side, this index.html file, you can actually change the password in here as well. And this shows it just right over here in this Git, just like in where it says line 458. But yeah, guys, that is just a pretty much quick overview on just how chatbots work, how to train a chatbot on like your guys' corresponding data, Just a quick video on the code overall and how this all works, and obviously how you guys can deploy this via Vercel, and Vercel makes this stupidly easy, especially since I already wrote up the code for you guys. But yeah guys, that is pretty much it for this video. Thank you guys so much, and I hope you guys have a great day.